I do think if one of us is Nog and one of us is Jake, I am Nog.
I mean, I took that internet test, remember?
Yeah.
It legit told me that I am Jake Sisko, and I'm still discussing that with my therapist.
Yeah, as you should. Hi everyone, I'm Lily Rosson.
And I'm Cole Paulson.
And welcome to Deep Space Wine, a podcast that attempts to recap and decode every episode of Deep Space Nine, the forgotten stepchild of the Star Trek universe. Each episode we will share a bottle of wine, wind down, and then wind ourselves up again with our strong opinions about DS9. Because in our social experience, there is nothing people love more than when someone talks at length about Star Trek or wine.
Or self-sealing stem bolts.
Or yamok sauce.
Ugh, I would talk for days about yamok sauce.
I have questions. In fact, can we just dive right in? Season 1, episode 14, progress.
Let's do it.
All right. So here are my talking points and also episode name ideas.
Hit me.
All right. Number 1.
Why waste time?
Number 1. Lily tries to determine the flavor profile of yamok sauce.
Are you going to try incorporating it into some of your recipes?
I feel like I want to discuss what I think it tastes like, but I don't want to jump the gun on that.
Yep.
Okay, number 2. What would Morn and Dax's babies have looked like? And I think really weird. Let's admit the babies would have been cute and weird looking.
Yeah, weirdly cute looking.
Yeah, I'd grimace at it.
Should I? You know that you can. There's those apps that let you morph two faces, and then you see the beautiful. Look, everyone, we're gonna post to our Instagram page what Jadzia and Morin's babies would look like,
and then maybe also what me and Cole's babies would have looked like.
Would have? What do you mean would have?
I don't know. I feel like that's pretty sealed, like the self-sealing stem bolts. But we'll see. All right, number 3. And this is a bit more serious. Spock's adage that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one.
Yes. 100%. I had that in my notes.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the big questions.
One of the big questions.
This episode forces you to sit with.
It does.
I love this episode.
Yeah.
It's great. I remember the first time I saw it, just loving how Star Trek was willing to tell such a small story.
Yeah.
In one respect. But at the same time, it's huge and it's asking big questions. And do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few is just one of those questions.
Yeah. Okay, wait. I've still got a few more
please.
points. I'll shoot through these. We don't have to answer them. These are questions. Number 4. Luddites. Am I one? And is it so bad? To be continued. Don't answer that.
I will just say that every time you and I start recording, one or both of us fiddles over all the wirings and connections for about 10 minutes, and then one of us swears. So to answer your question directly, yes,
yes.
And yes.
Oh, come on. You can see me in a beautiful hut in the middle of nowhere on some moon one day.
Yeah, I say embrace it.
Thank you. Those are the answers I was expecting.
Embrace it. You could see yourself looking good in a summer dress on a moon somewhere.
No, I'm like a weirdo in a hut on a moon that ends tragically.
Can I join you?
Yeah, you can. Which of us will be mute? I don't know, from the trauma. Too soon? I don't know why I went there.
I think both of us enjoy talking too much to ever go mute.
Oh, yeah, no. If I'm ever mute, I will die. All right, next question. Kira Nerys. Do we like her?
Sisko says at one point in this episode that he likes her.
I like
my question is he telling the truth?
Or is it manipulation? Interesting.
Yeah, I was genuinely planning on asking you that.
Okay, let's park that and revisit during that scene.
And then I suppose my counter question to do we like Kira is, does Kira Nerys like herself?
No. Sorry. Sorry. Not supposed to answer these straight away. So I guess my final question is, what is progress?
I have some things to say about that.
Great. Hit me. You take the wheel.
Well, I had no idea going into this recording if you would have liked this episode or not, because it seems to be a very polarizing episode online. Some commentators I read call it the first great episode of season 1 and the moment DS9 starts to hit its stride. And others call it a complete betrayal of everything Star Trek stands for. And I'm going to dare to ask, Lily, What if it's both?
And I dare to answer, it is. But please go on and explain why.
Ethical gray areas, confronting problems that don't have clean solutions. I think those become hallmarks of Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
If the ending to this episode left you feeling a little uncertain, a little yucky, a little frustrated, well, then this is the show for you.
Yeah, I love feeling those things.
But this idea that this is a betrayal of everything Star Trek stands for, I think the power of this episode is right there in the title and the irony of the title, progress. Star Trek has always been all about progress, right? It's always had this blinding faith in the power of technology and science to improve the human condition. I think it was the very first episode we recorded where I told you that everything I need to know in life I learned in Star Trek.
You did.
And yeah, as a kid, Star Trek made me a believer in the inevitability of humans' continued advancement, fueled by technology. And even more than that, the idea that that advancement is always going to be for the better and good in its own right. I was that little kid who got excited about tricorders and transporters and warp drive, and how those things would make possible eliminating disease and poverty and ending inequality. But maybe connecting those dots from the what to the how hasn't always been spelled out in Star Trek.
Searching for the new frontier, but then what happens when you're on the final frontier?
Yeah, and I don't think Star Trek has really paused to ask what that looks like.
So I think this episode is quietly registering a word of caution about that blind faith in progress. I think at the minimum, it's an indictment of Star Trek's tendency to oversimplify things. And it also questions that faith in scientific and social progress to make our way of life inevitably better.
I kind of wish I had included my intertextual link, A Short History of Progress, because that's the thesis.
Oh, do tell.
So it's based on a series of lectures, the Massey lectures. And look, I read this book 20 years ago, but it really resonated with me and I think about it a lot. So the author sort of looks at, I guess it's anecdotal representations in history of the result of progress, sort of for the sake of progress, advancement for the sake of advancement. And one of the examples he uses is Easter Island. So if you go there, there are totem poles everywhere and no life.
Right.
Basically, what happened was the society cut down all the trees to build bigger and bigger totems. And eventually there was nothing left on the island and they had to leave.
Fascinating.
It's a fascinating book. You should read it.
Well, that's really interesting because this episode is also about resources, especially energy resources, and not renewable resources, might I add.
Yeah.
So, fun fact about me, I actually have a master's in development.
Oh, that old thing?
Yeah. Development being another wonderfully euphemistic term for progress. We love to use euphemism in development. We'll see that in this episode, in fact.
So there's two things I want us to think about as we discuss this episode. You've probably noticed we tend to not talk about third world countries anymore, but instead we talk about developing countries.
Developing.
Which, first of all, carries this implicit assumption that things are getting better. And by better, we tend to more often than not mean closer to how we live in the West.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we call countries like the US and Australia developed countries in the past tense, as if they've already made it, we've already got to where we're trying to get to, and end of story.
Yeah. And if you've ever done a road trip through the US and seen the abject poverty, you might question that.
Exactly.
I found it very confronting.
Yeah.
So what the hell does development even mean? Broadly speaking, we're talking efforts to improve the economy and standards of living in a society. That could take the form of new hydroelectric dams or new electric grids, plumbing, sewage, access to healthcare, the rule of law. Progress also almost always comes with new safety regulations, codified systems, uniforms. Our developed world has teaching curricula, passports, barcodes, shopping malls. So I think one big question this episode keeps asking is, what is lost in the name of progress? As much as we gain, are there things that are also lost? The second thing I want us to think about is a little more fundamental to our concept of progress and the progression of time.
So, Lily, when you think of time and the progress of time and you visualize it, what does it look like to you?
I feel like this is a trick question, but it's linear?
Like a timeline, right?
Yes. Was that right? Did I fall into your trap?
Who says there's a right and a wrong answer? I'm not setting you up for anything. Don't you trust me?
Not at all.
In the West, we think of time as linear, exactly, going steadily forward along a timeline. But a lot of other cultures conceive of time as cyclical, which actually makes a lot of sense when you think that day and night move in a cycle, seasons come in cycles, there is birth and death and rebirth. I mean, it's even interesting. You talked about resources and using up a society's resources, but if you think of resources as being linear, like there is a finite amount and we burn through them all and now that's done, versus thinking about resources as cyclical and how we can continually renew them. So there's something interesting there about how we even think of the progression of time as if we're like burning through it or we're continuing to repeat and renew something.
Sure. Like if you're a nomadic culture, you learn to take parts from the land and move elsewhere and then come back at a certain time.
Yeah,
when it's
exactly.
regrown. Yeah.
And I think keeping that in mind might be important for this episode and the character drama that's happening on the small scale. Because I think both, like you asked, did I say the right answer? I think both concepts of time are valid and useful when you're thinking about a people or a society. Like when we think about human history writ large, from hunter-gatherers up to the modern world and then leading into the future that Star Trek imagines, that linear progress makes sense. But if we think of the story of just one human life, progressing through the cycle of birth to death, then that big timeline of human history actually doesn't matter so much and doesn't feel so relevant. It's more about the progress of that human life. And I think that's a really interesting thing to think about when we discuss Kira and Molobok in this episode.
So you're pretty overqualified for this episode. I'm going to put that out there.
I do have a master's in progress. I mean, spoiler alert, it was a 2 years master's, and we basically learned about all the ways that humans thought we had figured out how to develop and how each of those ways failed in massive ways.
Yeah. Each time we reached the pinnacle of enlightenment and then whoops, no, we didn't.
Yeah, or it turns out we didn't realize how we were also destroying something in the process, right? So, oops.
Burning it to the ground, so to speak.
You know, is that relevant here?
Really quickly, I wanted to say some quick things about the B plot.
Yes.
With Jake and Nog. Because at first glance, this story feels really out of place alongside the Kira and Molobok one.
Yeah. In the A story, you get a devastating tale of, I guess, property rights at the heart of it. And then the B story, you get a really fun story about property rights. So...
Right.
Everybody wins.
That hit me at the very end. I was like, wait a second. Are these both about property rights? Like, no one saw that convergence coming, did they?
We didn't. Look, when you talk yamok sauce, do you think you're going to get to property rights? No, but here we are, everyone.
Here we are.
But once again, we haven't explained the episode yet, so here we are not.
Yeah. Otherwise, it seems like this is just a really light, fun way to fill up the time and add a little levity. But is there something more going on there between these two stories?
I think there is, but that's not to say that levity is not important in this episode, because gosh darn it needs it.
We needed Jake and Nog to be running around trading nonsense things for more nonsense things. Ira Stephen Bear does cite little inspiration for this. This storyline was inspired by the character Milo Minderbinder from Catch-22.
Yes.
Have you read it?
I have, yeah.
Milo Minderbinder is called perhaps the best known of all fictional businessmen and a bittersweet parody of the American dream by historian Stuart Brandis.
Which I think is very interesting.
Oh.
There's also, are you aware of some of the real life examples of this, seeing how far you can uptrade?
I was going to talk about the lady who swapped the paperclip for the house by the end. eBay?
Yeah, and
there's a YouTube star, Ryan Trahan, who started with a penny, and in just a week, he traded it up to a whole house.
Yeah.
I think he got like a motorbike to a car to land, just empty land, to then a house in a city. Yeah, exactly. Dirt. So yeah, my question is just, what is this storyline doing in this episode?
Perhaps we will find out that it's more connected than one might think.
Oof. Let's find out.
All right, and let's find out about this wine, shall we?
Let's.
Woo! So tonight we're drinking a 2022 Pinot Noir from a producer in Parongarup, and the producer is called Shepherd's Hut.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for the gasp.
A+.
Thank you. So Shepherd's Hut, they do single vineyard wines and they do them in very, very small batches. Porongara is a small village in the Great Southern in WA, which is clearly one of my favourite wine regions. Notes from the producer: it's an enticing nose of red cherries and spice. The palate is jubilant red fruit, strawberries and cherries. A hint of blackcurrant and a subtle smokiness adds depth and complexity.
I have often thought that red berries were jubilant, and I thought it was just me.
But, also depth and complexity.
A deceivingly lightweight, but in fact deep and complex wine.
Mm-hmm. And length. Should we drink it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let me crack it. It's a screw top.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm tasting jubilance.
We're going to need some jubilant wine to work our way through this one.
Should we do it?
Let's do it. Let us progress to the recap.
Here we go. Episode 14, Progress. Open on a card game in Quarks. What is this, Next Generation? No, it's not. But lo, in a lime green two-tone onesie is Jake and his best friend Nog passing the time over a game of cards.
I think it's freaking adorable that Jake and Nog are playing cards. It's somehow the perfect compromise game for a human and a Ferengi.
Yeah. They overhear Quark complaining to a worker who has clearly made an ordering error. The mistake is 5,000 wrappages of Cardassian yamok sauce, and I have so many questions. What kind of unit of measurement is a wrappage? And also, Quark describes yamok sauce as swill. This is from a guy who drinks millipede juice, so what does yamok sauce taste like?
I love how many random units of measurement and quantity are in this episode.
I know.
Wrappages is one of my favorite.
Yeah, I like wrappages because I'm now just thinking each little thing of yamok sauce is wrapped up in something really cute.
I just picture those ketchup packs that you get, to put on a hot dog.
Yeah, okay. You're so right. It's just in a shitty plastic little packet.
Do you want yamok sauce? Do you want to try it?
Here's my theory. Here's my theory about what it tastes like. I have this theory that yamok sauce is really alkaline. Hear me out.
Okay.
Cardassians are kind of lizard people, so they're eating things and drinking things that are quite different from other humanoid species. Yep. And for my palate, everyone knows acid is great. Everyone knows all these things balance out. But alkaline, in its pure form, is absolutely disgusting. And I only know this from having had these pure alkaline concoctions for a colonoscopy. So there you go. And it's swill.
I want it to be some sort of sauerkraut, like vinegary fish sauce, maybe?
No, I feel like that's not alien enough.
Yeah.
So that's what the
right.
Ferengi would be eating. See, I feel like they're having something really weird, and that's why no other cultures want it. Anyway, Let's move on. So Quark threatens to gouge the worker's paycheck as recompense, but Nog is eavesdropping and clearly having a brainwave. That's a lot of yamok sauce, he says, which is now one of my new catchphrases, and it does get brought up again in the episode. That's a lot of yamok sauce. Jake is miffed. Jake is miffed that Nog isn't playing the card game.
Jake just wants to win that game of Go Fish.
Oh, he does. He's so simple.
They're playing Go Fish, let's be honest, and Jake loves it.
No, I don't have that card. Let's keep playing. All right. But Nog informs Jake that he is getting that tingling in his lobes. And when a lobe tingles, it means only one thing: opportunity. And he begins the B story and a tale of two young men traversing the free market.
Yeah, it's all about that invisible hand and how you play it. It's a weirdly, Star Trek exists in a post-capitalist human society. So it's kind of strange for Deep Space Nine to just have so much fun in the capitalist playground, right?
I think that's part of what we love about it. Stop pretending there's a utopia. The rest of the universe is still working with currency, including the Ferengi, who are a huge part of Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine is throwing a bucket of cold water on the Federation's face and being like, come on, guys, just be serious.
Yeah, grow up, they say, and we all do.
By the way, slashing your employee's salary in half for the next 6 years is an extreme punishment.
Classic.
My only note.
Classic move. Meanwhile, in the A story, Cisco is facilitating Bajor's first large-scale energy transfer, tapping the molten core of its fifth moon.
How's that for a euphemism? I said development is all about euphemisms. A large-scale energy transfer, aka destroying an entire moon.
Yeah, tapping the molten core of its fifth moon, Gerardo. Is that how you pronounce it? Gerardo.
It's Gerardo, I think.
Gerardo, not Gerardo.
Gerardo sounds like that Brazilian guy you made out with when you were drunk. Gerardo.
Yeah.
Not you, just, one. The Brazilian guy one makes out with.
Sure. This is not a story pulled straight from the headlines of my life, personally. Not to say that I haven't made out with Brazilian men. It may have happened.
Not assuming one way or the other.
No. Sweet, sweet Gerardo. Dax and O'Brien are there acting as science props. They get a few lines.
They're sciencing, yep.
Sciencing about. Minister Turan, who is a Bajoran official, is also overseeing this transfer in inverted commas, and seems nervous. Forgive my bureaucratic nitpicking, Major, Turan says, and then condescendingly explains that the energy will be heating a few 100,000 homes in Bajor this winter, Kira. Oh my God. And then Kira excuses herself from this awkward interaction because she probably just wants to run away from this guy because he is the pits.
Because he's a bureaucratic nitpicker. Something, unfortunately, development is just a lot of bureaucratic nitpicking. I can say that after having worked for a year at the United Nations.
Right.
Turns out when there's an alliance of all sorts of different people, like the UN or the Federation, it's insanely difficult to actually make things happen.
Yeah.
So just a little throwing cold water on the Federation again.
Yep. And there's Cole dunking on the UN. I think we all know that. I mean, everybody knows that, right?
Exactly. This is not shock. And I'm not
a secret.
I'm glad the UN exists. But life is a lot harder than Star Trek makes it look sometimes. Okay, as far as this energy transfer project by tapping the core of the moon, let's just get it out of the way now. The science and the rationale for the setup of this plot does not hold water. It's kind of nonsense, especially if they say that destroying an entire moon will heat a few 100,000 homes. I think the scale of that is completely off. They're basically destroying an entire ecosystem for, like, if they had said it'll power an entire continent, maybe, but we're talking like destroy a moon and it'll power a neighborhood in New York City. So let's just acknowledge that the scale is sort of off in this episode, and that clearly this tapping the core of a moon and displacing people is sort of an allegory for large-scale development projects like hydroelectric dams. The Three Gorges Dam in China is the one that comes to mind the most.
And I did a little research. The dam was actually approved back in 1992, a year before this episode, so it was in the headlines when this episode was being written. Today, it's the world's largest power station in terms of power generated, and it has been very controversial because upwards of maybe 4 million people were displaced to clear out what was going to be flooded when this dam became active. Apparently, 13 entire cities and 140 towns were completely submerged underwater for this dam.
Horrible. Yeah.
It had a huge toll on biodiversity. The Chinese government itself has even acknowledged that the dam was probably responsible for the extinction of the Chinese river dolphin. Like, oops, we haven't seen this dolphin in 40 years. But on the flip side, the dam has reduced the potential for flooding, which in 1 year alone back in 1930 caused the deaths of 4 million people. So
wow.
It's about that balancing lives of people now or later, potential impact. They see it as a success. The Chinese to this day are very proud of the Three Gorges Dam, despite even acknowledging the mass displacements and extinctions. It's these huge, thorny questions that this episode Progress is an allegory for.
I am mainly, I can't stop thinking about the river dolphin.
Those river dolphins, they're not officially extinct. They just have not been seen in 40 years. And it's almost certain that blocking the flow of this river made it impossible for them to. They're one of the few freshwater river dolphins, and they just didn't have a habitat anymore. But developed China now provides energy for all of its 1 billion citizens.
Okay. Thanks, Cole.
I'm just here to provide some facts, some context. Carry on.
It's just here's a fun fact.
Hey kids, do you like dolphins?
Too bad. Moving on.
To Jadzia's love life. Let's move on to Jadzia's love life.
Yeah, something a little bit more fun. We're on the runabout with Dax and Kira, and Dax is dishing the dirt that Morn has asked her out to dinner, which Kira can't believe because she's a superficial piece of shit. No, because... Circling
back to an earlier question, do we like Kira?
Apparently, Morn is the life of the party. We never get to see it, but everyone talks about it.
He's got a great sense of humor.
Great sense of humor. You know, a drinking problem, but who doesn't have one of those?
Cheers to that.
Woo! So Dax says, well, she said no, but apparently she was into the 7 or 8 little wiry hairs that come out of Morn's forehead because they make him look kind of cute.
She finds him kind of cute.
This is Dax's taste in sexual partners. She does not have a set physical type. It's really about the vibe with her.
Do you reckon, though, is Jadzia just trolling Kira here?
No.
She loves messing with people.
She does, but she's into freaky dudes.
It's also like you're going to get bored of the norm after 7 lifetimes.
Yeah.
Try some weird shit, right?
Exactly. Some lame humanoid form. No. Have someone where you can see inside his skull. Or, I don't know.
Exactly.
A Ferengi or whatever. Whatever you're into.
I think those 7 or 8 wiry hairs do make one look kind of cute. So I get you, Jads.
Oh, right. Dax has found some humanoid readings in an area that's supposed to be completely evacuated, a moon. Kira beams down to investigate into what turns out to be an idyllic vegetable garden / homestead, where she is quickly surrounded by 2 disgruntled homesteaders holding a literal pitchfork and also a gardening hoe. Prop watch.
I wrote Bajor in Gothic.
Oh, it was right there. It was right there, and I'm so mad at myself. Well done.
Can't you just be grateful that one of us saw it? I mean, this is a team effort.
Look, jealousy is the sincerest form of flattery, right?
Exactly. It's not my only art illusion in this episode, I'll have you know.
Oh!
I think it's really important how idyllic this moon surface is. It's sort of like what we hear Bajor was like before the Cardassian occupation. In harmony with nature, Edenic. And that's obviously important.
Yeah. A little slice of utopia. So that's the teaser.
Making good progress. Whatever, I'm loving it. I will edit out the nonsense.
Down on the homestead, a gravelly voiced older man tells Kira from the doorway, the problem is they don't like uniforms. The first of many sassy comments. Kira states that, well, neither does she, but it comes with the territory of her job.
And I think this line, I don't like uniforms either, but it comes with a job. I think it could be the thesis for the episode. I think it's really important.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Oh, old sassy man calls off the angry homesteaders and tells Kira she is halfway pretty. Yeah, right. And that he doesn't like uniforms either on account of the Cardassian occupation. Kira explains that he and the other 2 were supposed to have evacuated. And then she gets called girl a few times before saying she doesn't care to be called girl, but still is persuaded into staying for supper.
Yeah. Gender is one of the many themes under the hood of this episode. And I wanted to ask you, like, how often does Star Trek so overtly address sexism? Because obviously Star Trek has a proud history of gender equality, putting women on the bridge, putting women in leadership positions. But how often does it discuss how sexism acts and how it's pernicious and just treat it as subject the way it does in this episode?
I think it's a common thread with the character of Kira because obviously this stuff is set in the future, but still a product of the late 90s, early 2000s. So where feminism in arguably the mainstream, if that's what we're going to call Star Trek, where that was is where this sits, which is a certain brand of feminism where maybe women are still having to prove that they can emulate men.
Yeah, and that is sort of one role of the Kira character. I mean, how often do main women characters on Star Trek experience gender discrimination the way Kira does? How often were Troy or Crusher or Uhura actually the victim of sexism?
Yeah, I guess how to phrase this? The way they perform femininity is very different to the way Kira performs femininity. So they're very feminine women that you're describing. And Kira sits in a slightly more masculine category.
Yep.
And she does kind of emulate men a bit more than they do. She has short hair. She has a temper. She speaks her mind.
She's in the military.
She gets angry. She's in the military, yeah.
And I think the tension here is a woman in a position of authority in the military, right?
But I think, again, it's the way that she is and the way that she chooses to be. And I think these were and still are very confronting things for heterosexual men. Even just short hair on a woman is still confronting to a lot of heterosexual men. So how far have we really come?
So do you think this episode deserves credit for acknowledging that women who stray outside the lines of gender norms have to put up with a lot of shit from men? Or do you think this is sort of too obvious? I mean, look, I was impressed that the way this whole episode is telling Star Trek to maybe like wake up a bit. It's saying, yeah, women are still going to face sexism in the future from people with outdated mindsets.
Well, I think it's interesting because I think this character is, which we'll find out, is performing sexism, arguably.
Totally.
Whereas, say, in the first episode, when Miles O'Brien describes Kira and Bajoran women as fiery, feisty, that's what he actually thinks about women. So, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I do have more to say about it as this episode progresses.
Okay.
Also, this is another thread to pick up later. This actor kind of looks like Anthony Hopkins.
He totally does. His name, Brian Keith. And I think he does a great job.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, love him. All right, back at the Free Market Best Friends Club, the boys have tracked down a Buffy demon with a manta ray chin. Apparently
it's good makeup, you got to admit. I thought it was like Babylon 5, Star Wars. Notch. They're doing great alien makeup here.
Things are happening in season 1, as we've been saying. This guy is the captain of a Lysepian cargo ship who has many trade deals with the Cardassians. Nog lays out the deal with this guy, and that is original, not replicated yamok sauce, and it's for sale, and it's top quality merchandise. Nog offers to sell it for 5 bars of gold-pressed latinum. That's a lot of latinum, says the guy, to which Nog replies, that's a lot of yamok sauce.
Lily's favorite catchphrase.
That's a lot of yamok sauce.
When can we use that in real world context? Is that sort of like, all right, we're going to need a bigger boat? Like, oof.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of yamok sauce.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm also picturing, like, what if someone is coming on too strong? Like, if someone on Tinder to me is, like, laying it on too thick, could I be like, that's a lot of yamok sauce?
Yeah. You could definitely screenshot the Tinder, send it to me, and then comment, that's a lot of yamok sauce, I think would be the appropriate context.
Great. I look forward to that.
So Manta Ray, he counter offers with a trade. He will trade the yamok sauce for 100 gross of self-sealing stem bolts. More questions to be answered or not answered later. Nog is way skeptical and he just wants some cold hard cash, but Jake suggests they trade the stem bolts for something else, truly exemplifying how the market worked before currency. And in a way, it's kind of full circle for the progeny of a human in Starfleet, which is trade, which moves to currency, which moves to a currency-free world. So, hey, we're on Deep Space Nine, so it's back to trade. The frontier.
It's almost like time is moving in a cycle.
Could be exactly what Cole was describing. And no, we did not discuss it beforehand.
We did not. Quick shout out to Peter Allen Fields, the writer of this episode, because he's the man behind yamok sauce and self-sealing stem bolts.
Self-sealing stem bolts. Yeah.
God bless him, because both of those things stay with us over the course of Deep Space Nine, as they should.
They really do. And if he can shed any light on some of our questions.
You know what? I believe I've read somewhere that he absolutely cannot. He has no idea what either of these things are. And I think that's as it should be. That's as it should be.
It is.
I think it's really interesting that Nog is the one who's really rigid about giving up on latinum, and Jake's the one who sees opportunity where Nog does not.
It's true.
He's a little more patient and a little more flexible.
He's a little more optimistic too.
Yeah. That's because he grew up in the Federation where, like, you don't actually have to haggle for anything, and he's just having fun. This isn't like his livelihood dependent on how good. This is just a fun little hobby for Jake.
Yeah. Whereas this is Nog's reputation, future, chance to redeem himself.
We find out about his motives a little later. There's a big hint about his motives.
We do. All right. More on that later. Anyway, Nog and Jake decide to make the deal and they shake hands with old Manta Ray Face. And also Best Friends Club is so cute and I love them.
Thank goodness for these two.
Yeah. Nog describes Jake as his business partner. Well, I have a business and sometimes when I'm discussing my business partner, I too feel like a young Nog cutting yamok sauce deals.
Sometimes when I tell people about my award-winning podcast.
Soon to be award-winning.
It's a developing podcast. I see you in Nog's cool hipster fashions and it just...
I do think if one of us is Nog and one of us is Jake, I am Nog.
I mean,
so,
I took that test, remember? I took that internet test and it legit told me that I am Jake Sisko. And I'm still discussing that with my therapist.
Yeah, as you should. Back at the suspiciously LDS-looking homestead, there is a great collection of homemade pottery and ceramics, as well as like a heap of veggies laid out on the kitchen table, like it's a Nancy Meyers film.
I was thinking a Dutch still life painting, like a Vermeer.
That too, cabbages and things.
Yeah.
Off-brand Anthony Hopkins is putting Kira to work in the kitchen, where she belongs. Obviously. Dax comes through and Kira informs her that she'll be staying for supper, which is apparently some kind of root that needs to be boiled for 3 hours. Sounds delicious. And apparently the angry homesteaders were tortured by Cardassians also.
Not to diminish the horror of Baltram and Kina being rendered mute by the Cardassians, but it is also remarkably convenient from a budget perspective, because if characters don't talk, then you don't have to sponsor their SAG membership. So everyone wins here.
Wow. Just a side helping of exploitation. Great.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh no. It's exploiting on exploiting.
Wait, no, we love the makers of Deep Space Nine. Anyway.
No, I'm keeping that. That's hilarious.
Anyway, all of this pathos is negated by sassy old man calling Kira a good girl. I don't know about Kira, but one of my favorite things for a man to say to me. So anyway, this guy keeps commenting on Kira's appearance, along with some negging for good measure. You look real good from this angle, but you walk like a carnivorous rastapod straight from the game.
Mullibok has read the game.
Sure has. And Kira takes the bait. Ooh, and she's getting angry. But apparently it's all been in good fun to get a rise out of her and make her angry. Such larks. And it's the 90s, so Kira finds the mind games quite funny. Yuck, yuck.
Well, let's talk about this, because the writer, Peter Allen Fields, was dissatisfied with the final outcome of this episode because he had written Mullibok to be more of a jerk than he thought he came across in this episode. He had actually not wanted this guy to be likable at all, and hadn't even wanted him to seem like he was warming up to Kira at all. And he thought the way the acting and directing played out gave Mullibok too much credit. I kind of still think Mullibok's a piece of work, but what did you think?
I think he's a piece of work, but he's got a twinkle in his eye. He's knowing. He's wry. There's a lot to like about him, as much as he's manipulative and all kinds of other things.
He's manipulative, but he's a fighter, and he's a man of conviction, which obviously Kira has to admire. I think Kira warms up to this guy a little too fast, but we learn more about Kira and her past over the course of the whole series, and there are reasons you could understand why she warms up to this man that I'll get into later.
Yeah, but he says this stuff and then kind of waits for her to notice that he's making a joke. Right? He's not deadpanning it.
It's almost like he's testing her empathy and her emotional intelligence. Like, how much can I actually...
I think arguably he has some vulnerable moments too.
And I think he's also capable of love and affection, and he definitely has affection for Kira.
I mean, he's all of us.
At least maybe in 40 years when you're wearing that sundress on that moon with me.
Ooh.
Moon dress?
My moon dress.
Little moon dress.
But yeah, like you say, now they're friends apparently. Anthony Hopkins wasn't kidding about the roots taking 3 hours to cook, which is pretty rough. It sounds terrible. Now that they are best friends club, Kira tries to explain the fact that the energy transfer from this moon will benefit hundreds of thousands of Bajorans, in a roundabout way explaining Spock's philosophy that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Kira tries to convince him that Bajor is changing for the better, to no avail. Mullibok will die in his home rather than leave it.
Yeah, I think the writing in this is really sharp. He says, you're precious Bajor.
Yeah.
He does not identify with Bajor anymore at all. He's escaped trauma and has built a life for himself. Whereas Kira very much aligns herself with the Bajoran state. I mean, she works for the Bajoran military, and she's working on the development of the entire Bajoran planet, whereas Mullibok has very squarely decided to only care for his own interests and those of his neighbors and friends, and to be a person of self-reliance. And I don't think this episode tells you which mindset is the right one.
And this is also a theme in the first Kira episode, Past Prologue.
Yes, no, exactly. They're really putting poor Kira through her paces in these Kira-centric episodes because she has to decide where her allegiances lie. Her whole life, it was just defeat the Cardassians. And now, who do you ally yourself with? How do you identify, and who's part of your community and who isn't? These really big, uneasy questions once the black and white of war is over.
And Cisco and Kira have a pretty interesting conversation about it later in the episode.
Yeah.
Back at Quarks. A Starfleet Bolian has won Darbo at Underboo Darbo Ladies table and is walking straight out again without the winnings. How does this game work? I don't know. Do you just have like a tab that's always running? You win Darbo and you're like, haha, I'm walking away.
Well, what you don't know about Dabo is that if you don't flee the bar within 5 seconds of winning, you don't get to keep your winnings.
Nog approaches Quark, who immediately tells him off for some very un-Ferengi-like behaviour, getting a Darbo player a free drink after the Darbo player dropped their drink. And apparently these are also Rom's habits that Nog has been picking up. Poor old Rom. Too generous by half.
Yeah, so this is the scene where we get Nog's motivation for why he's so desperate to make this sale, because Quark's suggesting he's turning into his father. And of course, Nog is terrified of that too. And he's trying to prove that he's a real Ferengi with the lobes for profit.
Yeah. They're tingling. They're tingling all right.
Those lobes are tingling. He's doing great.
In a classic Ferengi move, Nog manipulates Quark into giving him the yamok sauce to dispose of. Bravo, Nog. But anyway, it's night, and it's back at the Hobbit homestead, the facade of which bewilderingly has blue neon squiggles on it.
I missed the neon squiggles.
But yes, inside the homestead, Mullibuk is regaling the table with tales of his youthful exploits, commandeering a Cardassian ship and settling on this moon. His homesteader friends, who, mind you, are too traumatized to speak and thus have had to listen to this guy for 18 years, roll their eyes, and it's quite funny.
No wonder he's so verbose. He's talking for like 3 people.
I know. And they're just like stank-eyeing each other. It's pretty good. They can't talk, but their eyes say volumes.
Their eyes speak volumes. And I think those eyes deserve SAG membership. You heard it here, and I hope they eventually got it.
They do. Wow. We could look into that.
There's something really interesting that this episode is saying about storytelling. We talked a lot last episode, obviously, about storytelling, but I think this episode might even have more to say about it. I mean, Mullibuk is telling these tall tales. He's pretending they're his life story, but they're obviously exaggerated.
Yeah.
And so what is he doing?
It's interesting. I was thinking, is this a bit of a, in my day, we walked 20 miles uphill in the snow with no shoes, etc., etc.?
Yeah.
And I think in a way it is. It's sort of that style of, it makes me think of the Irish style of storytelling, Celtic, with exaggeration and all those kinds of things. Or is he picking things he thinks will appeal to Kira? Or is he merely retelling the story the way he wants to retell it, you know, fighting off 6 Cardassians and all that, when potentially that's not exactly what happened and he was abused and all sorts of things?
I was sort of thinking he's telling his own origin story. And we talked last episode about how you are allowed to tell your own story and shape your own narrative. He's decided to tell this larger-than-life origin story for maybe various reasons. You know, he talked about how he tamed this place. And it's not only his origin story, but it's the origin of how he came to this place and his relationship with the land, which obviously his connection to this land is so deep. It almost has this myth-like quality that the facts wouldn't be able to convey.
It's still a very Eurocentric view of being at one with the land, though. It's still about taming it. It's not about being one with it. It's
conquering it.
You know, grinding between his teeth to add to the soil, and
grinding the dirt.
You know,
in his
digging
teeth.
Things, and the sort of grittiness of it to tame it to what he wants it to be. Still not the cyclical.
Yeah. Well, first he beat the Cardassians, then he beat the land, and he's earned this. He's earned being like the owner of this farmland. He's
tamed it. He's planted his flag, and he's the authority there. Well, not anymore. Some more mind games continue as Mullibuk likens the Bajoran resistance in an uphill battle against Cardassians to his plight of staying in his home. And Kira, he sort of gets her to admit that the way they won was to hang in like a fanatic, and she sort of realises that's what he's doing as well. But on a side note, the silver goblets are really pretty and fun and sort of medieval. Prop watch.
It's gorgeous. I think the whole set for the house and all the props makes me want to hang out with Mullibuk. I think as far as the power of story, he's also telling the story to trick Kira into understanding where he's coming from. He sets this whole trap through this story for Kira to actually identify with him, which is another really effective use of story.
and pretty manipulative.
Yes.
But storytelling
hey,
can be.
I mean, here you and I are talking about this story that Deep Space Nine told to us and what we get out of it. I mean, it's the power of a story to make us see things in a different way, right?
It's full circle, baby.
The cyclical nature.
Back in a cargo bay on DS9, best friends conglomerate are admiring their stem bolts. We know it's the next day because Jake's onesie is now my favorite blue and purple combo of onesie.
You've settled on a favorite.
I have, yeah. There was an Instagram story we did, and that was my favorite.
I think it's a great choice. Out of Jake's 3 onesies.
Nog tries out his best slimy salesman pitch. You can't get a better stem bolt in this sector. But then O'Brien arrives to ruin the fun with some import-export red tape.
Darned development bureaucracy.
BFC, which is what I'm calling Best Friends Club, try to finagle O'Brien into telling them what the heck self-sealing stem bolts are. But turns out O'Brien doesn't know because he's never used them before. I didn't see it coming. But it does seem like a lot of people are pretending they know what a stem bolt is in this episode, including the writers.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? Isn't living in a developed world just pretending you know what's going on half the time?
Oh, man, yeah. But by process of deduction, Jake and Nog work out they can find the original person who ordered the stem bolts but couldn't pay for them. And then this person can tell them what stem bolts are. And his name is Serko Chano, another great Bajoran name.
Great name.
So then we're in ops. Kira is facing Cisco and Minister Tehran about this situation on this moon. They debate the possibilities of dealing with the conflict, to take the holdouts by force, postpone this operation, offer the people holding out something that they want. But Kira knows that none of this will actually work. Torin argues in favor of the greater good, and Kira accuses him of behaving like a Cardassian. Gasp!
Oof. You do not go there, Kira. That is a line you do not cross. I mean, isn't that tantamount to like calling a Jewish person a Nazi, quite frankly?
Totally. So Kira throws this accusation, and then Tehran accuses her of having feelings and emotions. How dare she?
Ugh, like a woman.
That's fine. He'll just find someone else for the job. And what he's really saying is, I'll find a man for the job.
Yeah.
Right? Because men don't have feelings and emotions.
I mean, at least I don't. Lord knows. And can we just ignore the minor plot point that there was an alternative way to tap the moon that would have been less destructive if they'd waited 1 year? Because quite frankly,
reasonable.
You wait 1 year to not destroy an entire ecosystem. So let's just cross out that line of dialogue because it cancels out the entire debate, which I think is a debate worth having. So moving on.
Yes, I did leave it out of there.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
So then in a truly ill-advised move, Kira arrives back on the moon with security to take the homesteaders by force, which was one of the things she said was terrible and wouldn't work. But
more uniforms,
decided to deal
guns.
With it. Yeah.
Protocol.
Make sure they have uniforms. I think I wrote in this scene, side note, I really appreciate the design of the cottage and all the matching furniture that's been made to suit the cottage.
Oh, it's immaculate.
This whole episode is set and prop watch galore.
There's a window cut in the shape of the Bajoran insignia.
Oh,
and the door that folds upwards like a DeLorean.
The door, it's like a DeLorean, yes. Oh my God, amazing.
Set designer, well done if you're out there.
Loved it. Prop watch. Kira tells Malabok she is doing what has to be done. But as a great power move, he starts working on building his kiln.
Right.
Because he's like, I've always wanted to finish this and I never thought I'd get it done. But anyway, here I go. But in a shocking turn of events that we all saw coming, violence has ensued. And Malabok, in an attempt to protect the two mute not extras who have been exploited, he is phasered by one of the security team. And it's all very dramatic. Yeah. And I was kind of on Nana's side for this whole episode. I feel like she was really underplaying it, but then she goes full-blown Kira with the acting.
Nana is still learning to rein in the extreme shock reactions. Yes. I'm glad you were kind of on Nana's side, though. That's promising.
I feel like she, for such a Kira-centric episode, is playing it down.
She is. And you have to, because this is like I said, it's a quote-unquote small episode that ends up becoming big.
It is.
Another thing, the uniforms, the security guys, they're like, Kira, he stabbed me with a farm implement. which really tickled me. Farm implement.
Yeah. And help me, Kira. It's like, what? No, this guy had a pitchfork. You've got a phaser, you noob.
Yeah, this is all sloppy. I thought it was especially sloppy at first when he phasered Mullibok and Mullibok fell over severely injured, because I thought, well, in Star Trek, they can stun you with phasers. And so they just stun Mullibok. But then I thought, oh, wait a minute. U.S. police also have tasers, and they also don't have to shoot to kill. And yet, how often do they fail to do that?
They do.
Right. When violence is an option, violence happens.
Ugh. And everyone is re-traumatized by their experiences with the Cardassians and now their experiences with these people who are supposedly helping them onto their new lives.
That's a great call. Every single person, from the moon dwellers to the security officer who shot. Yeah, everyone's re-traumatized.
Yeah. But into the less traumatic storyline, Best Friends Club talking over the radio with a voice that sounds a bit like a Dalek, but it's clearly Serko Chano, the Bajoran, who is mad keen for these self-sealing stem bolts.
He wants them bad. He's got some stuff to self-seal.
He's doing what needs to be done with them. No questions asked by me. They introduce themselves as the No-J Consortium, and it's very cute. I love that.
AKA Nogio and Jake yet.
Is what that stands for. They quickly get pulled into another exchange of goods instead of gold press latinum. And this guy's offering land, which we all know is quite a risky investment. Nog immediately says no, but once again, Jake is the yes man. And then he does an adorable little wink at Nog to sort of show, like, come on, we can do this.
Jake's feeling it in his little ears, his little human ears. He's feeling that opportunity.
He's a gambler. He's a right Kenny Rogers, this guy. And then it's, apparently the land is 7 tessipates of land, which is the most insane unit of measurement that I've heard so far.
But to their credit, they actually circle back within the episode of this sort of metric system. I forget what.
Do
but there's
they?
And it's not even land. I think Kira has to administer a certain something pates of medicine later. So well done for consistency. We got a Bajoran metric system. But I do think when the guy's like, I've got 7 tessipates of land, and Jake's like, that sounds good, without having any clue about the unit at all, is like...
I know. Could be nothing.
Very, like, the Jake who wants to play Go Fish. That's the Jake we're dealing with
here. Yeah. That's really funny. So, it's quite funny. They start talking about whether land is land or land is dirt. But the distinction between these two things is apparently in the eye of the beholder. Jake thinks it's land and Nog thinks it's dirt. Back at Mullibok's hut, Bashir is there giving his medical opinion. Mullibok questions why Kira didn't just take him to Bajor while he had been knocked unconscious, why didn't she? Mullibok refuses to go back to the station for medical care, which then Kira signs up to be in charge of. But not only this, she pulls off her uniform jacket and we get to see her undershirt for the second time this season.
Yes! The famous Kira undershirt.
Here it is in all its netted glory.
What if Kira's hard at work undershirt is in the running for like all-time series best fashion watch? I don't know. Another question for us to ponder
definitely.
in this episode.
No. The answer is yes. Start the tally, folks. And it's just like in terms of how iconic it is. Because, it's interesting to look at, but I think maybe more because of the juxtaposition with the uniform rather than being a really beautiful piece of fashion. But iconic. It's
true.
Iconic.
It is. It's iconic.
Getting down to work on this kiln.
Yeah, okay, so we know the symbolism of Kira's little undershirt. What about the symbolism of this kiln?
I mean, yes. Yes, the symbolism. So allegedly a task that Mullibok has been putting off, something that needs to be done. Does it need to be done? Is there something in just creating and just building something? Is there something about a kiln and the act of making something and then creating something new when it's put into fire and under pressure? Am I getting close?
That was all brilliant. All I had in my notes was he is trying to finish the kiln. He's trying to make progress on finishing the kiln. And Kira is helping him make progress because this idea of your own life can be a history, right? And Kira wants to help him make progress in his own life, however futile. It's just like this. I mean, it's his own mini development project, right?
But also, I think it's anti that too, because it's, and hear me out, creating something just for the sake of creating something.
Yep.
Knowing that
especially
it doesn't have a use.
Yeah, it looks like most of the work they're doing is just aesthetic, right?
Totally.
Just like,
These funny bricks that I did read were
Yeah.
specially made and designed for this episode.
nice.
Prop watch.
Yeah, it's just the beauty of having your own pizza oven in your front yard, huh?
But it's not even about having it. It's just about building things, like creating things. And
Yeah,
I
that's a
feel-
great call.
Yeah, I feel that.
And he has, you and I were praising his DeLorean doors and Bajor windows, and he has built this entire life for himself. And he obviously got joy, jubilation from, satisfaction from creating this life for himself. And now to be told that's all going to be wiped away.
That's over for the sake of 100,000 people.
I mean, way, way too few people for destroying an entire moon with an ecosystem. But yes.
Look, it's more than 45 people, I guess. Anyway, in Ops, Bashir is doing some tattling to Cisco. He says, and then she just took off her uniform tunic. and it's like, yes, that was a big moment. I'm glad you noticed. And then Cisco deadpans, right now she stands a pretty good chance of being out of uniform permanently.
Bashir does say she just started building, which is really what we were talking about, this building for the sake of building.
I was distracted by the creepiness. He does say that. Cisco decides that he needs to lie to Minister Turan about the necessity of Kira staying on Gerudo, and Bashir, as usual, is not very quick on the uptick. And he's like, but that's not true. What you want me to say that it's necessary for Kira to stay there. And Cisco says, make it true, Doctor. And Bashir is
almost
just like a tiresome little toad, and Cisco is so badass.
See, whereas I thought there's something kind of tragic about this scene because you're witnessing Cisco corrupt poor Julian right before our eyes. Like, Cisco's always been about bending protocol, ends over the means, and he's like, Bashir, it is time for you to lose your childlike innocence and get with the program.
Yeah, but Bashir is a smug little worm who would happily be a nitpicky, bureaucratic piece of shit. But he's gone to the frontier and he's going to learn something today from Cisco.
Learn how to break the rules to make things happen. That is a life skill.
It's red tape, man.
Down with red tape.
No.
I mean, I'm not here to defend red tape by any means.
Good. So we're on the same page then. Back at the shepherd's hut, Kira is performing some medicines and
giving him some calipates of medicine.
That's
I think.
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. She's pretty angry at the situation they're in. And then as I Foxy tale, a parable about her childhood. There was a big old ugly tree in her yard and it blocked out the sun for something that she wanted to see the sun for. And it had roots and the roots stopped everything from growing. And it was a nasty old tree. So, you sort of get the picture.
They love a good parable.
And Malabot asks, so did you cut it down? And she says, I don't know yet.
I kind of loved that.
I loved it, the storytelling of it when you're sort of creating these parables on the fly, just the way you're feeling in story form.
Yeah, and I wrote down Kira's learning to speak his language.
Yeah.
She's on his level, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Cisco is beaming down. He arrives and he has some witty repartee with Malabuk. These two have great chemistry because they're both apparently master manipulators in a way. Right? They already speak the same language. But yeah, he says that Kira is jeopardizing her career by doing what she's doing. Cisco asks to speak to her outside, and Kira is building the kiln as they talk to each other. Cisco says he doesn't want to break in a new first officer, which is sort of partly a threat, partly a warning about what might happen with the Bajoran government. And he says that she has a job to do, and while it may not be simple, it cannot wait. Cisco empathizes that Kira is used to fighting for the underdog, but now she is the authority in charge. And while this may sit uncomfortably, she can't fight the authority when that's what she's working towards now. And Cisco, as an African-American man in a position of authority, can quite rightly empathize with Kira's dilemma.
That's a great connection.
Right?
Did you think he was almost undervaluing it when he said you've spent your life fighting for the underdog and that's what this is? Is that all that's going on? Is this triggering some impulse for Kira to fight for the underdog, or does it run deeper for Kira?
I think it does and it doesn't. And I think also there's nothing wrong with that running deep. That she has, that she's fighting for the cause of the person who's sort of being preyed upon for the good of the many. But I don't know, it's an interesting rhetoric that Cisco uses, but I do actually think he's empathizing, and maybe it's what the actor is bringing to the role as well, the way he delivers.
I think it's a really cool point.
Yeah.
Because he does manage to see her and connect with her through this.
Yeah, more than say Picard could.
Yeah. Well, Picard and Ensign Ro had a very famous falling out, right? Because Ensign Ro is just like Kira. She wants to fight for the underdog, and Picard felt betrayed by her. And Sisko's like, look, I get it.
Yeah, he'll always get it.
Are you going to talk about the little story that Sisko told Kira, speaking of storytelling?
Well, the compliments. He thought that she was
See,
hostile and arrogant.
When I first met you, I thought you were hostile and arrogant.
But he was wrong, apparently.
I mean, isn't she hostile and arrogant? Like,
but is she?
I can like Major Kira and still think these things are true. So I'm not convinced that he's like...
But is she, or is she just not performing femininity the way we expect it to be performed?
Yeah, okay, I think...
We can all look inside ourselves, because I too find Kira problematic. But why? The answer is the overacting. Sorry, Nana.
Yeah, frankly.
We're off the hook.
Oh, thank God. But she's also been put, I mean, she does treat Sisko and the Federation hostilely. She is arrogant about what she thinks is best for Bajor compared to what the Federation does, because she does know better. She has been put in this really unfortunate position of having to answer to this Federation who knows the situation less than her. To Sisko, she has been hostile and arrogant, and that's completely understandable. I guess Sisko sees through that and admires her. So maybe he's not telling a tall tale here.
I think he's being real. Yeah. I actually think he does like her. Yeah, so he says, Bajor needs you and I need you. I like you and I don't want you to be hurt. His fate is already decided, but yours isn't.
I almost wish the show did more with the Sisko-Kira relationship, because it doesn't give us a lot of scenes about the two of them. And this is one of the pivotal ones of the whole show, and I do really like it.
There's so many layers.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. That's a lot of yamok sauce. Is that right?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Thanks. In the next scene, Kira is by Malabok's bed, sitting in a beautiful rocking chair, prop watch. Who was the carpenter on this episode? Let us know. Reach out.
Reach out, because you designed a beautiful shepherd's hut. Yep.
It's great. Malabok is having a dream. Kira says he was having a bad dream, but he says it's just a dream filled with bad memories. And Kira soothes him. Is he feverish? Is he being manipulative? We're not really sure. Then in, I guess, the way they've learned to communicate, they exchange some more witty barbs. But I like to believe it's a vulnerable moment, because he requests that she sleep next to him in the chair and sort of pull her chair a little bit closer so he doesn't feel alone. What do you think?
For sure. I think at this point, Malabok has become a father figure to Kira.
Yeah.
I just rewatched an episode in season 5 called Ties of Blood and Water, where you see Kira in almost an identical position, caring for an older man. And that episode actually goes into, it has flashbacks with her and her father and the complex relationship she had with her father. So all this to say, this is actually some amazing continuity over the years about how Kira can develop this closeness to older men.
Yeah.
Despite or because of how poorly they treat her. So I think there's a lot going on here, because, spoiler alert, Kira's dad was killed by Cardassians, and so there's a void Kira's trying to fill here. I love the part when Malabok wakes up and Kira says that he was talking in his sleep. He says, I didn't say anything, did I? And there's a little fear in his voice. And for someone who talks a lot, he tells lies and mistruths, and he's actually afraid of having revealed something real. He's actually afraid of revealing the trauma of the occupation, because another reason for telling stories, he's smoothed over. He says, I killed those Cardassians. I escaped the Cardassians and killed them all. But the truth is so much more horrible and so much more traumatic, and he's tried really hard to bury that. And this is him getting even more vulnerable than he wants to.
What's that Tim Burton film? Big Fish?
Big Fish.
Yeah. So basically it's a son and he's by his father's deathbed, and the father's telling him the story of his life, but it's all magical realism and it's all fantastical. But really, I think it's a life filled with trauma. And it's sort of this way of reframing or just rewriting your history.
Yeah. Again, a character who reminds me of Garrick. This season, we've had Garrick. We've had the guy from The Vortex. Deep Space Nine is really fascinated with these dissembling, mysterious characters with traumatic pasts. Maybe that's just a particular interest of the writers, but it's something I've started to notice.
And arguably, except for Bashir, until later, it's all the central characters as well.
Yeah. No wonder Bashir sticks out like a sore thumb, because he does not have a past he's trying to hide and bury. He's still a green thumb.
Does he?
Right? Stay tuned.
At Quarks, again, the No J consortium are playing cards and dressed in their finest serious person attire, which is a purple overshirt for Nog and a dark grey two-tone onesie for Jake. It's very adult, it's very dashing, but it's trouble in paradise because they're still arguing over the merits of and the distinction between land and dirt. But what's this? They overhear Quark discussing the No J consortium with Odo.
This debate about, I think I just realized this myself, but Nog and Jake are debating, is it dirt or is it land? Which is almost the debate that Kira and Mullabak are having. Is this dirt or is this my home, right?
Oh, delicious, Cole. Yes.
Thank you.
That's good. So Jake and Nog overhear Quark discussing this mysterious No J consortium with Odo. Odo says, does Quark know who they are? Because he needs to get in contact with the consortium. The Bajoran government want to build a reclamation facility. What the heck is that? On some land.
It's a big developmental infrastructure project, obviously. A government-led
developmental
infrastructure project.
Great for progress and jobs.
Yeah, it's a job creator. Totally.
So yeah, they want to build this on some land which is owned by 4 different parties. The other 3 have agreed, but they can't get in touch with the 4th party, which is No J. And Quark says, what a good opportunity for profit. And then there's a great little bit of direction where it's Odo and Quark talking, and then it pans out to the faces of Jake and Nog, and they're just delighted and they're beaming and practically shaking, and it's very cute.
And they're hiding, quote unquote, behind those golden poles. It felt very like Shakespearean. This terrible
great.
Hiding place where the whole audience can see the people hiding. It's great.
I loved it. And then we get a little close-up of Mon, and we all lean in to assess the 7 or 8 hairs coming out of his forehead to see whether they're cute or not.
And Lily says, not for me.
Oh, what? No, they're cute. But then Nog comes up and sort of comically offers Quark a business opportunity. And they have this exchange where Quark tells him to sweep the floor, but it sort of becomes clear that Nog has a secret. And then Quark sees Jake beaming behind him in the background and then pieces it all together and realizes No J, Nog, Juliet, Jake. And I don't know, he seems a bit disgruntled. Does he seem proud? What is that emotion?
Well, he's been
jealousy.
It's jealousy. He's been out-Ferengied by his nephew.
Sincerest form of flattery.
His idiot brother's son has out-Ferengied him.
Yeah.
Do you wish there had been a little more resolution to this plotline? For me, it ended a tad abruptly.
Yeah, maybe they didn't know what to do with it. But I kind of like them just grinning. Yes, there are some deeper themes residing underneath this plotline, but it also is just Best Friends Club hijinks, and I can't dunk on that.
Yeah, whatever else there's to say, this plot exists to be lightweight, and thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God, because next scene, back on the moon, Kira wakes to find that Mullabak is up and about. He seems to have somewhat recovered, and he's back to building his kiln. Kira apparently has put her uniform tunic back on, a symbolic move. And while she goes to help Mullabak and to finish to put the last brick on the kiln, she says to him, it's finished. And what does she mean? She says, you finished your work, and now it's time to finish mine. And she blasts the kiln with her phaser, destroying it. And then she takes a torch and sets fire to the cottage.
Whoa.
Prop watch, we all exclaim. Prop watch.
Prop watch. We shriek in horror.
We sob. We cry. Prop watch.
Can I point out one very, very, very slight thing I noticed? Kira goes back inside and he's starting a fire inside the kiln. And he lets out like a little cough, just this little old man cough. And it was so slight that it could have been edited out. I think it was actually put in intentionally, but it's actually drawing this generational divide between Mullabak and Kira too. Like, this is an old man in the final phase of his life trying to defend his kingdom, right? He has he's built a whole lifetime making life for himself, and he's an old, stubborn man, and he doesn't have power anymore. And it highlighted for me that this is also a generational divide story of Kira still trying to make her legacy, build her life, and an elderly man just desperately trying to cling on to the last bits of dignity and self-preservation that he has. Like that little cough broke my heart.
I was also thinking about the generations of Bajorans, and I wonder how many Bajorans there are Mullabak's age still alive.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you go to Cambodia and there's just this whole generation of people that don't exist there anymore because they were killed. And whether that's true of Bajor.
Yeah, and through that lens, this is almost horrific and perverse. I mean, imagine like a younger generation who barely remembers the horrors of the occupation or say the Holocaust saying like, excuse me, a Holocaust survivor, but we're going to move you to a retirement home because we have to build this highway. You know, it makes what's happening here so much more perverse.
Totally. But the horrors don't end there. Because heartbreakingly, and I think this is real, but it also plays into sort of the mind games and the manipulation of their relationship, because this is a really fucked up thing to do. But Malabok asks her for a mercy killing, which imagine asking someone to do that, but I think it's in earnest. He actually doesn't want to leave. You talked about him creating a kingdom, but I sort of don't see it as that. I see it as a haven. He created a safe haven for a really small amount of people who are all vulnerable and traumatized. And he created things that were comfortable and warm and soft. And I think it's sort of the opposite of creating glory for himself. It's more creating safety.
Thank you. I didn't like it when I said the word kingdom. And in fact, creating that safe space, I think it was genuine way back at the beginning when he invited Kira for dinner, because that's his instinct. Everyone is welcome. Come sit down. Let me make some 3-hour root stew for you.
Yeah.
And that's his nature. And he's a host, and being asked to leave and then become someone else's refugee.
Yeah. And maybe we don't know the real Malabok. We know the Malabok who has had his life disrupted again.
Yeah.
And had his safety taken away from him again.
Because remember, he doesn't want us to know. He refuses. He's like, I didn't actually say anything in my sleep, did I? I do not want you to know who I am.
Yeah. Oh, devastating. Yeah. So he's asked for the mercy killing, but Kira just can't do it. She won't do it. She can't do it. And he says to her, if I leave here, I'll die. And she says, no, you won't. I won't let you. And then to beam up with a close-up on Kira's face, flames in the background. And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, I thought it was a really small but powerful directorial choice. Credit to Les Landau, the director. Yeah, the episode ends with Kira and the flames behind her. It does not end with the two of them beaming up. So in a very small way, Malabok is spared the indignity of being shown actually being kidnapped from his safe haven. It just like spares him that one grace almost.
Yeah.
Oh.
As his home burns to the ground.
Oh.
That's a lot of yamok sauce. Sorry.
Perfect. That's a lot of yamok sauce.
That's an award-winning podcast. Yeah.
We're progressing to be an award-winning podcast.
Yeah, it's in development.
Crushing.
Yeah. Gut punch. I think it's a great episode.
Okay, good. I think it's very often dismissed as a boring Bajoran episode, but it's always stuck with me ever since I saw it as a little kid, as a deceivingly simple, heartbreaking little story.
Yeah. You know, I gravitate more towards the episodes that trudge around in the human condition rather than the sort of political dramas or high sci-fi conceptual stuff. No, this is my bag.
Yeah, this is the story of one quote-unquote forgettable old man's life rather than the fate of the galaxy. And I'm glad we spent time with it, as devastating as it is.
Yeah, and this is what I like about Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think we've talked a lot about it over the course of the episode, but A-plot and B-plot, weirdly both about land rights and dirt versus land. Weirdly, they both converged on the Bajoran state seizing land for infrastructure projects. I'm really curious if that was intentional.
It's got to be. We'll give credit.
It has to
credit
be.
Credit where credit is due, yeah.
I'm assuming they're giving all 47 moon dwellers very high compensation to
reparations
buy homes.
Or something, yeah.
Very high reparations that are never discussed. I think it's just assumed.
I mean, they're not the Cardassians.
They're not the don't suggest they are. There's a kind of crazy comparison between socialism and capitalism happening. Like, Nog and Jake are learning how to navigate the free market, whereas Malabok is a victim of a socialist state and like big government projects. And it's interesting because Star Trek has always very happily resided in the land of socialist, egalitarian government. And it's like, actually, that can screw some people over.
Yeah.
Which is a very refreshing and honest take within the realm of Star Trek.
Throw your hat in with capitalism instead.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, like, how much are they saying about capitalism? Because, again, Jake is just playing at it because he doesn't need it. I don't know.
Aren't we all playing with it, Cole?
I mean, I'm not playing very well, but yes.
We can all agree neither of us are playing with it very well. I think we made some interesting links as well to do with the cyclical nature of history as opposed to the linear.
Yes. In fact, I was thinking that Nog and Jake, they're trading one thing after another, and they're starting to despair. Like, is this ever going to pay off? Are we just in this endless cycle of trading one thing for another? And then, I mean, it's almost a deus ex machina, but suddenly they do manage to upgrade and get the latinum they wanted. But for a second, it looks like they're going to be stuck in this endless loop of trading meaningless stuff for meaningless stuff. So
yeah. But is that anything more meaningful than getting the gold press latinum and exchanging that for goods? Back to my original point about Luddites and whether it's wrong, and we've established I am one. Is there a point to progress for progress's sake? I think
100%.
I think that Malabok has a point. And in a way, Jake he's like a young country or a young civilization full of hope and naivete and hubris.
Idealism.
Playing at it, just having a go and not thinking about what the consequences are. And Malabok is at the end of his life like a civilization that's seen it all come and go, seen different occupations, seen a new authoritarian regime in his mind come through to come and perpetuate atrocities, which they do. They burn down his home.
Going back to all the units we heard in this episode, we talked about wrappages and tessipates and bars of latinum. These are all silly, frivolous units for things that don't matter. How can you measure the value of Malabok's home? I mean, it's priceless. It's immeasurable. And that's the tragedy, is that these boys are trading up, and Malabok, there's absolutely nothing that can be traded for everything that has meaning for him.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
I have drunk a lot of wine getting through this episode.
Bummed out. I am sad, and now I'm thinking about the river dolphins again.
I'm sad drunk.
We haven't done this before. It's always fuzzy or happy. Shall we lighten things up with some fashion? Whoa. I got really sad.
Please.
Contenders?
Just the immortal practicality of Kira's undershirt.
I mean, it's the clear winner.
Yeah.
What else?
Did any of it compare to just the utilitarian glamour?
No, just what it symbolizes, all kinds of things. In terms of things that represent the cyclical nature of the world, I do like being able to pinpoint the passage of time by the changing of the Jake onesie.
If it's a Tuesday, he's wearing his jigsaw puzzle blue, green, and purple onesie.
Exactly. If it's blue and green, it's Go Fish Night at Cogs. Prop watch. Stunning.
Prop watch.
Every moment of this episode featuring the hut.
Every farming implement. Yeah.
Every farming implement. What did you say, Bajor and Gothic? Great.
They brought a Vermeer still life to life, which I think is very impressive.
They did.
And
they did DeLorean doors.
And they reinvented what doors. They reinvented how doors function. I love that. They integrated. Oh, yeah. There's something so kinetic about how they built that kiln. It almost made me want to spackle some cinder blocks onto other cinder blocks. It looked it called to me.
Spackle away, my friend. It's okay to create something just to create something, as we learned. The stem bolts themselves, we didn't really go into it, but they had like a cool little mechanism.
I read that a self-sealing stem bolt was put up for auction and sold several $1,000s, which understandable.
Yeah.
Well, next week our imaginations run wild in a very wild Deep Space Nine that I'm going to call now. It will be a lot of fun.
Thank God. Thank God. Yeah, I need a chaser.
Exactly. A chaser. Next week is indeed Odo literally chasing an emu around the promenade of DS9.
Fab.
An emu. I'm sorry, an emu.
Yeah, it's an emu. Come on, mate. I've got a bit of the sads, but that's life.
Oh no.
It's not linear. Cyclical. I'll come back again.
I mean, my innocence was lost during my master's in development studies. And by the time I graduated, I realized that absolutely nothing humans did would actually fix everything. And there would always be sadness. So I've just come to terms with that sadness. That doesn't mean it's not worth trying.
That's a good point.
Sorry, that sounded incredibly cynical, but again, life is full of give and take, just like Nog and Jake, giving and taking, and I think we all got to keep trying.
You give a card, you go fish. You take a card, you go fish. This time around, watching Deep Space Nine, I am very fond of their friendship.
Yeah, isn't it nice?
Yeah.
It's something that we lost over the course of the series because, of course, their lives take them in different trajectories.
But that's also life. Cool.
That is, now I'm bummed out.
Good. Let's end it there. Come down
that
to
note,
my
everyone.
level.
Let's sign off for now.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.